Welcome to Kamjiverse. This is your exclusive bridge between the legacy of classical Africa and the triumphs of modern African revolutions. You won't find this connection anywhere else. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell so you never miss an episode. Share this video with friends and family. Become a channel member or join our Patreon. The links are waiting in the description. Let's honor our sacred legacy and ignite our future together.
In this video, we're going to talk about some of the relations that the new president of Gabon has with the Zionist state of Israel. So Israel Deputy Foreign Minister Sharon Haskell visited the Central African nation of Gabon over the weekend to attend the inauguration of the country's new president, in the latest diplomatic outreach to the continent. The trip marked the latest effort in a growing tug-of-war between the supporters and opponents of the Zionist state in Africa. Countries like South Africa have emerged as outspoken critics of Zionism, while others maintain strong ties rooted in shared strategic interest and faith. The Zionist state's relations with African countries are a strategic asset and an integral part of our effort to strengthen Zionism's standing internationally and to confront the challenges posed by Iran and terrorist organizations, Haskell told JNS Monday. During her two-day visit for the inauguration of President Brice Oligui Nguema, Haskell met with the senior government officials, including the vice president and prime minister, as well as the deputy archbishop, underscoring Israel's outreach to Gabon's predominantly Christian population. Haskell, a former global leader in the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus, emphasized the strategic value of religious diplomacy in Africa, where there are an estimated 600 million Christians and 54 United Nations votes. We have set Africa as one of our strategic goals for partnership, she said. More than ever, we need African support in international areas, at a time when Iran is making inroads on the continent rich in minerals that they use to launder a large amount of money. Saturday's inauguration was attended by 18 African heads of state, along with Massad Boulos, U.S. President Donald Trump's advisor on African affairs. The visit to the French-speaking country, known for both its oil wealth and persistent poverty, follows a series of diplomatic missions by Haskell aimed at bolstering Israel's ties across Africa. Last month, Haskell made a 24-hour visit to Malawi, where she signed a bilateral agreement to bring in laborers from the Southeast African country. Earlier this year, Israel's deputy foreign minister traveled to Ghana to meet with newly elected President John Mahama and made a separate trip to Ethiopia, where Israel's top diplomat is visiting on Monday, underscoring the growing partnership between the Zionist state and African countries. Last year, Israel thwarted an effort by South Africa and Algeria to deprive it of observer status in the African Union, with the help of Israel's African allies. So we're seeing Gabon as part of the tentacles of the Zionists, within the African continent. And this speaks to why, this coup leader is being praised while they demonize the Sahelian states, because he's playing along with La République, he's playing along with the Western NATO Zionist consensus, and he doesn't plan to offer solutions for the Gabonese people on the ground, which include ludicrous in the diaspora. And there's a lot of noise made about Gabon and the so-called democratic successes of Gabon, but poverty is still very, very high in Gabon. And most of the citizens are not benefiting from any of the resources on the ground in the country. And it is very, very sad how many African people are allowing themselves to be fooled, by a lot of these Western states. Gabon is located in Central Africa, obviously, and has one of the highest urbanization rates in Africa. 80% of the population in Gabon live in urban areas. In Libreville and Port-Gentil have 60% of the population, right? So half of Gabon is under 20 years old, with obviously more fertility in rural areas versus urban areas, right? So Gabon has had a long history of, the rule of an autocrat. And a lot of the support given to Bongo was from the Zionist state of Israel and other Western imperialist allies that he had. So even since the coup, there's been some economic challenges in Gabon, and they're trying to increase access, and have more expansionary fiscal policies, right? And they're trying to support indigenous job creation, right? So, but they're still going from the ground up. And again, we're going to have to look at how influential a lot of the BRICS nations are in their ability to gain access to partnerships with Gabon, right? Even though, there's been a relative increase in a lot of the infrastructure projects and trying to increase the production of oil and different minerals, to ease the demand in the global economy. There is a lot of questions about whether or not Gabon is going to be able to maintain this growth because, they always, dispose of the tools once they're no longer useful. This is why, the leverage and the ability of other nations to move in the Sahelian direction as opposed to the Kunalogist direction is definitely important. Because a lot of these metrics that they use in terms of economic growth and economic success are based upon the integration that African or Southern Cradle nations have with the Western NATO, EU, US consensus. And we have to be able to build an African consensus that's based upon supporting black economies in African nations, right? Now, so far, Gabon has, positioned itself as a stooge, of the West and a stooge of the Zionists, and not necessarily able to move forward with the sense of liberating these different polities on the African continent. Some people, some of the cheerleaders from the West believe that the economy in Gabon will be able to reduce poverty and be able to increase the quality of life. Where others say that without, autonomy by locals over the resources of Gabon, that is not likely to happen. And it's kind of in the middle. With respect to the resources, there may be some growth, some exponential growth with respect to the economy of Gabon. But a good lion's share of this economy will likely be owned or managed, distributed by foreigners, foreign-owned nations. Now, the fact that, China does have a port off the coast of Kribi means that a lot of the different commodities going in and out of Gabon will be coming from the People's Republic of China and will be coming from BRICS. But the way that they develop their trade partnerships in the coming years will definitely be extremely interesting because it'll show you if they're a complete stooge or if they're somehow in the middle, riding the fence, right? We're going to have to pay close attention to those different situations because the United States has been trying to stop China from expanding, and getting military bases in nations like Cameroon and Gabon, getting access to these international ports. They've definitely been trying to limit this from happening, but they've been unsuccessful because different African nations like Gabon are going to look for whatever partner suits them. Right now, today it may be Israel, tomorrow it may be somebody else. You never know because the politics in the African continent, especially within the modern global economy, are very, very dynamic and very, very moved and motivated by the different situations and access to economic control by a lot of these elite forces, right? So it's whoever is the highest bidder is going to be the one to shape geopolitical instances and situations on the African continent. Right. And with respect to Israel, because Israel has such a large control on the United Snakes, this is why a lot of African nations take heed to Israel, because these folks, they can communicate with each other on different sides of the pond. So we have to be aware of that and be willing to develop a Southern Cradle based, black based system, a black based polity, right? A united front, similar to what's happening in the AES, but across the entire continent and the globe. That's the next step that we're going to take in the sense of building our own self-determination and autonomy and being able to avoid a lot of these instances of control and mingling from foreign invaders and actors. And that's all I got for this one. I hope to catch you on the next one. Peace.
Join the Comgiverse Patreon for exclusive content, behind-the-scenes access, and special perks. Support the channel and connect with a community of revolutionary intellectuals and scholars. Click the link in the description to join now.